If you walk into the Church of Corpus Domini in Bologna, Italy, you'll notice something unusual almost immediately. In a side chapel behind a glass enclosure, there's a seated figure dressed in the habit of a poor Clare nun. She sits upright in a wooden chair, hands folded, head slightly inclined. At a distance, she looks like a statue. The pose is formal, the expression is still, the lighting is soft. And that assumption feels reasonable. Catholic churches are filled with lifelike religious art. Across Europe, many shrines display wax effigies of saints, carefully crafted to look like living bodies. These figures are designed to allow public veneration without exposing human remains. Over time, they have become so realistic that most visitors never question them. So at first, this looks the same. But when you step closer, the surface of the face is not smooth. It is uneven. The skin does not reflect light like wax. The hands are not molded. The fingers are thin, slightly curved, and irregular in a way no sculpture would choose. The fabric of the habits sits not on a mannequin, but on a human frame. And then the realization sets in. This is not a model. This is not a wax figure. This is a real, dead human body. The woman sitting in that chair died in the year 1463. Her name was Catherine of Bologna. And for more than 560 years, her body has remained here, upright, visible, and remarkably intact. What makes this unsettling is not that her body exists, it's how it exists. She's not sealed in a coffin. She was not embalmed. She isn't hidden beneath an altar. She has not been replaced by a replica. What you see is the same body that was lifted from her grave 18 days after her death. And what the nuns found when they opened that grave shocked them. Instead of decay, there was no odor. Instead of collapse, the limbs were still flexible. Instead of discoloration and breakdown, her features were intact. The sisters described her as looking more asleep than dead. The body was moved and seated in the position she still occupies today. This is the physical mystery. But what makes this story more compelling is the woman herself. Because Catherine of Bologna was not just a nun, she was one of the most intellectually and spiritually complex figures of the Renaissance. Catherine was born in 1413 into a noble family connected to the ruling court of Ferrara, one of the cultural centers of Renaissance Italy. She grew up in an environment few women ever experienced. She was educated in music, calligraphy, painting, and literature. She lived among poets, artists, diplomats, and scholars. This was a world of privilege and refinement. Yet, she chose to leave it. At the age of 14, Catherine entered a community of women who would later become Poor Clares, a Franciscan order dedicated to enclosure, poverty, and prayer. It was a dramatic rejection of everything her background had prepared her for. The decision was not emotional or impulsive, it was deliberate. Catherine was not escaping hardship, she was choosing discipline. Over the following decades, she became known not only for her devotion, but for her intellect. She wrote theological texts, spiritual treatises, and poetry. She illustrated her own manuscripts. Her surviving artwork shows formal training and deep familiarity with Renaissance aesthetics. Her most famous work, The Seven Spiritual Weapons, is not mystical in the sensational sense. It is practical, analytical, and psychologically precise. Catherine warned against spiritual pride, emotional self-deception, and false visions. She insisted that discipline, humility, and obedience mattered more than extraordinary experiences. At a time when many mystics described ecstatic trances and dramatic revelations, Catherine was cautious. She believed the greatest danger in religious life was confusing imagination for divine insight. That sobriety made her unusual. She did, however, report spiritual struggles. She described periods of darkness, temptation, and what she believed were demonic disturbances. But she wrote about them not with fear, but with clarity. She treated the spiritual life as a form of interior combat, requiring training and restraint. In time, Catherine was appointed abbess and sent to Bologna to establish a new convent. She governed it with a combination of strict discipline and personal gentleness. Her reputation spread. People sought her counsel. Church authorities trusted her judgment. She died in 1463 quietly in her convent. Nothing about her death suggested anything extraordinary would follow. 18 days later, the sisters opened her grave. They were not expecting a miracle. They were simply following the custom of transferring her remains. Instead, they found her body preserved in a way none of them had ever seen. The flesh had not broken down. There was no stench. The skin was intact. The joints could still move. Her face was recognizable. This was not the dry rigidity of a mummy. It was not the bloated distortion of early decomposition. It was something in between. The body was removed and placed in the convent. Over time, it was seated upright in a chair where it remains. No attempt was made to treat or preserve it. No chemicals were applied. No drying process was used. There was no scientific understanding of how such a body might be stabilized. Yet, it remained. Centuries passed. Bologna experienced wars, occupations, fires, and political upheaval. The convent was suppressed during the Napoleonic period. Religious institutions were closed and property was seized. Relics across Europe were destroyed, stolen, or scattered. Catherine's body was not. It stayed where it was. The skin slowly darkened, the tissue tightened. The face became more skeletal, but it did not collapse. The body did not disintegrate. It didn't rot. Physicians and church officials examined it over the centuries. They confirmed it was not embalmed. They confirmed it was not a replica. They confirmed it was human. Today, Catherine still sits in that chair. Her body is not hidden. It is not behind an altar. It is not reconstructed with wax or plaster. The features you see are her own, altered by time, but not replaced. This makes her one of the oldest continuously visible preserved bodies in the Christian world. Now, how is this possible? Science has explanations for preserved bodies, but they usually depend on specific conditions. Some bodies are preserved by extreme dryness, others by freezing, others by chemical embalming, others by unique soil chemistry. Catherine had none of these. She was buried in ordinary earth, in a temperate, humid Italian climate. Then she was exposed to open air for centuries. That is the worst possible environment for preservation, and yet her body stabilized. There is no consensus scientific explanation for why this happened. Without invasive testing, it is impossible to determine the precise chemical or biological processes involved. The Church has never permitted destructive sampling, and so the body remains largely a matter of observation. What can be said is simple. The body is real. The preservation is natural. The conditions do not fit known models. That leaves the mystery intact. What ultimately gives Saint Catherine of Bologna her significance is not the condition of her remains, but the influence she left behind. Her writings on spiritual discipline are still read inside monastic communities. Her artwork remains preserved in archives. Her convent in Bologna continues to exist more than 5 centuries after she founded it. And her approach to religious life, intellectually rigorous, emotionally restrained, and deeply self-aware, set her apart even in a period famous for mysticism. The body seated in Corpus Domini is not there because Catherine was spectacular. It is there because she was steady. She was not known for public miracles or dramatic revelations. She was known for clarity, discipline, and an uncompromising interior life. Yet that same woman now sits before the public in one of the most visually striking relics in Christianity. Not hidden in a crypt, not represented by a statue, but physically present in the form she died in. Whether that preservation was the result of unusual natural conditions or something beyond, that remains an open question. And that question is part of what keeps people coming. So when you look at Saint Catherine of Bologna, what do you see? A biological anomaly? A historical curiosity? Or something that resists easy explanation? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want more stories where documented history and enduring mysteries intersect, subscribe to Faith Factor Fiction and join us for the next one.